Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Enigma Exchange podcast. As always, it's your host, Matthew. Today, I am going to be going over a crazy list of topics. Just about everything that I can fit in this small little episode for you guys. I just haven't posted in a while, so I want to make sure I got that out there. So feel free to give it a listen. I hope you enjoy it, and hope you come back for future episodes that will be coming out soon. Alright, to kick right off into it, of course, the current beef that everyone's pretty much familiar with, and if you don't know, you absolutely need to know, the Kendrick Lamar, and Drake beef. It started off being the whole big three thing, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, and J. Cole. J. Cole and Drake came out with that song, First Person Shooter. Great song, referencing Kendrick. Kendrick couldn't let that slide. The man stayed silent for very long time and tries to stay out of everyone's business, but being dragged in, I think it's only justifiable that he kind of made a response, and it was absolutely killer with Metro Boomin and Future. I'm not even really a big Future fan myself, but I happen to be listening to the song almost every single day now. Of course, Drake and J. Cole both responded with their own independent songs. If you aren't aware, again, look into it. J. Cole ended up apologizing and basically said that what he was doing was immature and it wasn't him, and everyone's looking for bloodshed out in the industry, and that's what they were getting. So he decided to recall his song off of all streaming platforms and apologize to Kendrick, which is pretty cool. The two really cool dudes, they've made music in the past and been on songs together. They're both great lyricists, both great artists, both, grew up around the same time too, so it really kind of threw me for a loop when they started to go at each other, especially in the form that they did, because they both stand for a lot of the same things, and it was a whole mess. But I'm glad that they both got over that. Past that though, and unfortunately, when one person wants to step into things, other people have to step in too. Drake, kind of as the little side character that he always has been, he just kind of made his song, 50 push-ups? He listed a whole bunch of people inside the song, namely, Kendrick Lamar, Rick Ross, and Future, and, also Metro, poor Metro, the dude don't even rap. Drake came out with the song Push-Ups, and it was referencing just a bunch of stuff. Rick Ross actually came up 2 hours after Drake put out this song and made probably the hardest diss track I've ever heard anyone make for absolutely no reason. Like, this man has been sleeping and talking about pears on interviews up since Hustlin' came out. He's just been living lavishly. But, Rick Ross did his thing and made a song where you feel like you're sleeping on absolute diamonds while smoking the fattest cigar of your life, which is an absolute blessing to the ear. And I'm glad that, the rap community has kind of come to this for someone like Rick Ross to make another song for the one time. But needless to say, over the course of all this that has been going on, it really just kind of brought the best out of everyone, and I'm glad that the music that came out and the time that it did came out exactly the way that it did. Like, I don't think that it could have been any better for us in 2024 for all these big artists to be going at each other. And of course, there's a bunch of little side artists. I very much encourage you to look into just what's going on in rap nowadays, because there's a lot of drama, and if you're into drama or just even into being that fly on the wall looking into things, it's definitely going to be your type of deal. To keep on going with it and to just loop right onto the next topic, of course, YouTube. It's had a lot of great things going on. Not exactly the best practices at times, and a lot of creators get very, very upset with some of the guidelines that they have, but they did let Joe Rogan back, or at least, they gave him a good contract. I'm not sure exactly how that worked, but him coming back to YouTube kind of sparked a lot. And I'm not going to go out and say that these people are new by any means to the comedy world. Of course, first one being Shane Gillis. everyone saw the Facebook videos of him popping up. He was pretty funny, pretty funny guy. And then hopped up on Joe Rogan, started watching all the specials. Really, really funny guy. If you're into comedy, definitely look up Shane Gillis. You'll have yourself a good laugh. Really, 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 really funny. Of course, he brought Akash from Flagrant on there. Also, another really, really funny dude. Of course, everyone's classical favorite that he loves to bring on, Joey Diaz. They always have a really nice, interesting episode. I'm actually, and I hate to say this because I feel like I'm kind of a hater, but I really don't know what Joey Diaz does on the side, but, definitely look into him, give him a listen. Ari Schaefer, Mark Normand as well. I didn't hear of those guys until the episode with Shane Gillis. That was pretty cool. He got that Mexican OT on the podcast. That was also really, really cool. Kevin James, everyone basically knows who Kevin James is. Of course, Cat Williams. And to touch a little bit of base on Cat Williams, and I'm sorry to skip topics like this, but Cat Williams came out on a podcast with Shannon Sharp. I think it was in the beginning of 2024, where he absolutely went at the necks of everyone inside of the industry and kind of left everyone with their mouths wide open. No one's really said anything about it. No one's tried to rebuttal anything that he said, and he was talking about Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley, Kevin Hart. He was going down the whole list, and I would encourage you to also go look into that podcast as well, Shannon Sharp's. Mainly the episode with Cat Williams specifically, because it's an absolute killer episode. I highly recommend it to anyone that has a little bit of time on their hands or enjoys watching podcasts, while they're working or possibly while they're sleeping. So go ahead and do that if you will. And of course you got Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura. Who was that other guy that saw he had on? Kid Rock. He had Kid Rock on there. That was pretty fucking cool too. Just a lot of interesting, cool people that's been on Joe Rogan's podcast just this year. Highly recommend it. Something that I wanted to touch base on, and, of course, everyone did see it. It's all over Facebook. I just wanted to talk about a little bit the solar eclipse that happened recently. Really just an all-around cool event for the world. I'm not sure who all got to see it and who didn't, but I just think it was a cool event that the world went silent for about 10-15 minutes, and everything was super peaceful. Everyone was staring up at the sky. The sun got blackened out by the sun. I of course had that temptation. I'm sure everyone else did. Those little impulsive demons in your head that told you to take the glasses off and stare at the sun. I did it like once or twice for a half second. I'm not gonna lie here. Not a lot happened. I didn't go blind or nothing, thankfully. Really, really stupid to do, but I really just wanted to find out what would happen, if I did it. Again, stupid thought. But I kind of just went about my day throughout the whole entire day. I'm pretty sure we went over to Anna's dad's house and just kind of hung out, took a couple shots, stared up at the sky. It was just really, really eerie when everything did go black because there weren't any cars, and the cars that were going, you didn't really notice them. All the animals kind of stopped, It was just very abnormal for a 3 o'clock on that day, especially since it was a great day, super, super sunny where I was, at least here in Ohio. I apologize for the people that didn't get to experience it. I'm sure you've seen the pictures online everywhere, so I don't have to give you too much detail on what was going on there and, what it was like. The whole entire day just kind of felt surreal in its own way. A lot of stuff didn't feel very there, and, going about the whole day was just kind of one big lapse until that moment, I do think that there are some events on this planet that, bring everyone together as a collective. It is truly that moment of kind of like shock and awe when everyone stops for a second, just kind of sits there, and we all just look at one thing and we're admiring it. We're all thinking the same thing, like, wow, that is absolutely beautiful. And I just think that's really, really peaceful that we can all come to an agreement on one day throughout the year at least. I know there's a lot of conflict going on. There's that war going on that everyone's aware about. And, I feel like that little moment of peace that it brought kind of just felt nice for the world, Along with the eclipse, though, there's a lot of energy going around, and I'm sure all the girls are filling up their crystals right now, but, I'm watching every single day, hoping that good energy reflects on my sports betting. I'm not exactly one that's into sports all like that, but I do kind of pay attention a little bit, mainly into basketball and oddly enough, like soccer. I know. With the basketball, I actually have found myself making small bets here and there. Recently, I think it was only like $25 into the Boston Celtics winning their side of the conference and then the Timberwolves winning the other. It was going pretty good for like a couple weeks. They were both at the standings that they needed to be, and the Celtics are still up there, so I'm still getting a little under $100 from the bet that I placed on them, but the Timberwolves just recently dropped down. So I'm hoping that they can pick things up and kind of get their act in order before they end the conference finals and do the final standings of where everyone sits. So hopefully they have a good couple finals games. I'm not sure who I'm rooting to win all around, but I did bet that the final game would be the Celtics and I think it was the Celtics and the Timberwolves, but don't quote me on that. I'm going to have to double check. I know that sports betting can be lucrative, and a lot of people, really are kind of against it, but I'm like, hey, if I have a couple extra dollars to spare and I can put into it, why not? It's not going to hurt me. I think it's actually pretty crazy. There's so many ways around the world right now to get rich quick, but it's, it seems like a never-ending path for a lot of people. You feed money into these things and, you don't really get any results. That's why I'm okay with spending the small bucks, because I'm not throwing in like 100, 150, possibly even thousands of dollars into these bets and losing a substantial amount of money. I know a lot of other people are, and those people get really, really upset sometimes when their bet doesn't work out, but I don't plan on ever being that guy, thankfully. I plan to start working on my editing a lot more and coming out with podcasts here in the future. I definitely want to make this a more prominent thing inside my life, and, even if no one's listening to it, I'm still going to be coming out with episodes, hopefully every single week. I want to make it at least like 2-3 times throughout the month, if I can, maybe even more. It all just depends on the content that I get a hold of and who I'm able to talk to as I go about my life. But before I end things off, I do want to touch base on the preventative task force that is being made for the election that's coming up. So, allegedly, and I'm not saying that this is all fact, but allegedly, there's a pretty big risk of extremist violence because of what happened, last time when they stormed the Capitol. And they're predicting that there's going to be a lot of instability and that there's going to be another assault on the U.S. Capitol. And I just think that's the craziest thing. Like, they of course want to stop the, assassination threats that are going around, but I think that happens around every single election. I feel like any dude that's up in a high standing of power is kind of getting some crazy messages from these people. That's not something that you can necessarily do. Of course, they're worried about large party and voter gatherings, namely the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee that's going to be happening in July, and the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. They think that they are going to clash because the primary elections are going to be going around, and, if that does happen, God help us. I already know our country is doing the best it can as it can, but I feel like we're going through a really, really rough time with our own people right now. Of course, everything going on with Trump as well, they think that a lot of extremists on Trump's side are going to try and freak out and make this a whole big shebang, but if you ask me, I don't think there's going to be anything serious to worry about. And if I'm wrong, I'll be damned the day it happens. But I'm not saying that I want anything crazy to happen. I'm not saying that I want a riot to happen. But if election day comes up and I just so happen to turn on the TV and I see a riot happening, I'm not going to not grab some popcorn and, enjoy the show. I'm not exactly political, so I don't really care what goes on that whole plane of the world or, what the U.S. is doing in their affairs. I feel like that's none of my business. I'm just a normal, bottom line civilian, so I try to stay out of those crazy things. They're worried about people mass flooding the ballots as well. That's happened plenty of times before, but I feel like it's going to be a little bit more of a prominent thing, at least now. And they're also worried about, law enforcement as well, because there's been a lot of weird attacks going around with law enforcement. A lot of the riots are going on. And, I think that the people should stand for themselves. So I'm not going to say that I dislike everything that's going on, but I feel like that we need to mediate it to a certain standard, or we at least need to understand what we're doing as a populace before we go out and do all these crazy things, because we can't exactly take it back when all the smoke clears out, I am going to wrap this one up, though. I know it's a short one, and I do apologize. I know it's been a while. I promise I'm going to start making a lot more stuff here in the upcoming days, and I'm actively working on my editing skills and trying to get stuff down to where I want it to be and where I think it's most appealing for you guys. So, of course, as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to comment. Try to tell me the feedback. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. I'm all ears for it, Until then, I'm logging out. It's your host, Matthew. Feel free to give me a listen whenever you have the time. Whenever you're at work, you can always just leave it running. Listen to me. That's how I always find myself listening to the other guys that I was talking about earlier. I always start listening to 1 or 2 episodes, and I leave it playing throughout work, and next thing I know, I've already listened to 6 episodes, and the whole entire time, I was just busy doing stuff. I didn't realize the day went by. Alright. Anyway, though, thanks for listening.